Hey there everyone, this is Seb with a new Q&A video. Now before we begin, if you have any questions for a future installment, please leave them down in the comments below, as I want to make this into a monthly thing again. Questions can be about anything really, so go nuts and have fun. If there's enough room, I'll also include some community questions that have come up recently and that I found interesting. Down in the description you'll also find a list with the questions we'll go over with timestamps to each one, so you'll be able to jump to a specific part of the video you're most interested in. You'll also find links to the people who have sent in questions as sort of a mini shout out. My apologies for bringing this one out so late, by the way. I've wanted to make it a couple of weeks ago, but my headset broke down as well as myself. I got kinda sick for a while and I've slimed like I've never slimed before. I'm still not fully recovered from it, but at least I've got my voice back again, so let's go for it and test out this new microphone while we're at it. First two questions come from the Pirate Gamer Boy 12. Do you think the CDI could handle digital picture games like Night Trap, Sewer Shark, Double Switch, Corpse Killer, etc. smoothly without really long load times? Well, not only do I think that CDI could handle that, I believe it excels at such games compared to the competition at the time. It was made for stuff like this. A game like Meadow McCree at home looked best on CDI for a very long time, and you can even argue that it's better than the Wii port, honestly. There are other examples on CDI to counter your examples, like Voyeur, Chaos Control and Thunder in Paradise for example. They all show that CDI could handle such games just fine and with very little loading times at that. What's your favorite FMV game? Mine is the MS-DOS version of Mega Race. Wow, Mega Race, that takes me back. It's another MS-DOS game I used to play on school. It's not my favorite game though. As for my favorite, I'd probably have to go with Burn Cycle. I know, not very original for the CDI guy, but I really like the setting and the story, and the game actually plays well too, so I'm gonna stick with that one. Next we have two questions from Shogun Jino, and I do hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly here. If not, I'm very sorry. Anyway, first one. Have there ever been any animated films or TV shows that you genuinely prefer the Dutch dub over the original language? I know you grew up watching DuckTales, but any others? Tough question, that one. Well, all of the Disney afternoon shows from Gummy Bears up until Darkwing Duck had excellent Dutch dubbing, which I've enjoyed for one. I know it's a bit of a cheap first answer, but hey. The same can be said actually for most if not all of the early animated flicks, Disney or other. Come to think of it, most popular non-Disney 80s cartoons actually got subtitled over here with the original voices. And there was the glorious channel that was the TCC out from the UK, which we also received over here. So most tunes I've watched were actually in English already. I couldn't read subs fast enough, which actually helped me pick up English rather early. See, cartoons can be good for you. There were some English non-Disney produced tunes which received great Dutch dubbing, at least from what I remember, namely the Smurfs and Teddy Ruxpin. On the other hand, there were also some I didn't care for at all, like the dub for the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series for example, which was just terrible. Honestly, couldn't enjoy that series because of that. Some French tunes got dubbed into Dutch as well, like Seabird and the Once Upon a Time series, which were okay. We also got some Japanese produced stuff dubbed over, which got pretty popular for some reason, like Mrs. Pepperpot, Niels Holgersson and Mapletown. Unfortunately, the art of quality dubbing has kinda lost us, I'm afraid. Ever since around 2000, they started to make this effort to sound hip and cool in Dutch dubs, and you just end up with this weird mix between Dutch and English words and hyperactive speech. Maybe I'm just getting old, or maybe they just don't bother to localize content as much anymore and opt more for the lazy literal translation. I guess the Turtles were an early indication of this decline, and it wasn't even alone when it comes to dubious dubbing decisions. Any Dutchies remember Homer Simpson's replacing his "do" with "so do you"? I laughed my ass off when I first heard that in the 90s on TV. But yeah, some things you just don't do in dubbing. But hey, at least it happened the other way around as well, right? Just take oxtails for example. Anyone remember that? Well, if you understand Dutch and watch the original Boos, you'll soon find out that it's way funnier with all the wordplays and actual focus on the physical humor. I have no idea why anyone thought it needed a narrator to explain things in the English version, and the laugh here cues are rather insulting to the viewer, I think. But it seems to have still received a lot of praise overseas either way. So in the end, I guess the original is usually the best way to experience something and get the most out of it, or whatever you've gotten familiar with first. Personally, I also need to understand a language to enjoy something nowadays. For example, I will always choose English voices over Japanese ones in anime and games. Unless I learn enough Japanese to actually understand what they're saying, which is something I don't see happening anytime soon. Anyway, let's move on now before I derail this video any longer, since I can talk about this stuff all day long. Are there any franchises, games or movies that you consider to be guilty pleasures? Well, I do play a lot of CDI and actually enjoy the machine, so there's that. For some specific games, well, I had some fun with Duke Nukem Forever. Yeah, I'm immature like that, deal with it. In that same trend, I kinda liked Eat Led Return of Mad Hazard as well. There's also Final Fantasy X too, which I rather enjoyed. What? The battle system was awesome, I say. Don't judge me. As for movies, well, I tend to shut off my brain when watching a movie, so about 90% of the action movies I watch, I suppose. As for series, I'd have to say The Walking Dead. I've watched all episodes out so far, and every time I say to myself how utterly stupid the whole thing is and how unrealistic the characters are. Yet I keep watching just to find out how stupid it gets next, I suppose. The game, on the other hand, the first season at least, is genuinely great though. I also watch some cartoons now and then, but you've probably already guessed that, haven't you? Now, if someone happens to come upon my dignity laying around somewhere, I've seem to have kind of lost it and I want it back. It's worth at least half a cookie to me. Atsuma Karin comes in with 3 questions. Do you think the Netherlands will win the Football World Cup? If it's already finished by the time you answer, Ben knows me well, what did you make of their campaign? Well, they have gone and lost it, haven't they? Honestly, I could care less. It can be fun to enjoy a match and make a fun evening with friends and family now and then, but on the other hand you don't really need football for that, now do you? Besides, you run the risk of at least half the room turning sour after the end signal. Anyway, I do not enjoy the world of football at all, so I didn't keep track of their campaign anyway. As much as I dislike the business, because come on, you can't really call it a sport anymore, I do enjoy seeing so many people having a great time in the country in general. It's just kind of a shame that the masses need something like this to bring out some unity. Still, if you want to see crazy and you enjoy the color orange, make sure you get over here during a big sporting event like that. Do you think that virtual reality headsets, such as the Oculus Rift and Project Morpheus, could pave the way for an exciting new era in gaming? What about possible repercussions? And he gives a couple examples like migraines, psychosis, or games causing people to harm others or themselves. I've spent about 2 hours with the Oculus Rift playing some demos, and I'd say there is definitely an opportunity here to create some really cool experiences. The most impressive demo to me was one where all you had to do was keep the control keys pressed down, let go, and you lose. In the game, when you look down, you saw 2 hands holding down control keys on a laptop, so it matched your exact position. Then different things would happen in the game world and try to creep you out. And I'm pretty sure some people will let go, and I can even imagine some people running out of the room screaming afterwards, honestly. It was an amazing experience for sure, and extremely immersive and at certain points unsettling. I think tech like this is especially well suited for games in which the protagonist is stationary. Things like racing games or flight simulators spring to mind as genres that would work wonderfully. Whilst freely walking around in a demo, it just felt the same as usually, only with a screen glued to your face now. It didn't add much for me at all. Maybe I just need to get more used to it, but I quickly opted for looking and aiming with the mouse again. Doing it with your head just felt awkward, slow and less accurate. Why you'd ever want a device like this to play something like Team Fortress 2 is way beyond me. What was most surprising to me was that I could actually use the thing at all. Having poor sight and barely any in one eye, I figured it'd be a terrible experience, but nope, it wasn't, it played fine. I also don't see any immediate problems for the device right now, nor any health concerns for that matter. It didn't feel too comfortable yet, so longer periods of wearing it would be a pain, but I'm pretty sure the final product will have fixed that. The only slight concern I can see would be a slim risk of a sort of psychosis where somebody would lose touch with reality. This could potentially happen through total immersion, which could lead to some psychological issues due to taking over situations from a simulation as real. This would be a bigger concern with children, for which we invented something called age guidelines. Very handy stuff actually. On the other hand, I can also see it become an easy escape from reality for some others, which honestly can be very unhealthy as well. That's all very situational though, and could happen just as well without VR goggles on your face. When used as intended and with common sense, I don't foresee any big issues other than the innate stupidity that humans tend to display. If you know you get motion sickness fast, don't complain if you throw up over your favorite pens with this thing on. You know something like that is bound to happen sooner or later, or it will be linked to some other unwanted behavior for sure. Seriously, people have no doubt found a way to hurt themselves or others with a wooden spoon. So never underestimate the power of the spoon, you hear? It's clearly the tool of the devil. Alright, next question. If you could choose one era in gaming history and have that as the current gen indefinitely, which would you choose and ultimately, would you do it? I'd say the 32-bit era. At that time we had so many amazing games, and they were both in 3D and 2D. It just seemed that at the time we had the biggest variety, while still moving forward in discovering very new ideas in gaming. This was arguably also the best time for gaming music, I find. I mean, we had CD quality soundtracks that actually sounded like music for a game. Nowadays music for games tends to get a bit, well, for lack of a better word, overcomposed, if that makes any sense. In the end it's hard to say though, as every era had something good about it for sure. And if I did have the power, I wouldn't actually put us back there. In a way, now is the best time, as there is nothing really stopping us from creating games that are like the ones that came before it, you know. And luckily we've got some very talented indie developers doing just that. It might be a shame to see the bigger companies not making games we tend to enjoy the most, but hey, that's part of being a retro gamer, right? We only make up a small portion of the total gaming audience, and the total market just demands different games now. We get more of what sells the best after all. Changing the technology would not change the overall attitude. The only thing I genuinely dislike about modern gaming is that we are headed towards a total cloud gaming environment, and that sucks. Alright, time to fit in some community questions from last month. First up, we've got one from Kit171. When are you too old to play games? Whenever you decide to, really. There is no set rule about this, and thinking gaming is only for the youngsters I find rather ignorant and very old-fashioned. You still hear it occasionally, and most of my friends from school did grow out of gaming, or so they say. Yet you also see more and more elderly playing games, and not all of them are just gamers who never quit their hobby. I fondly remember playing video games with my late grandmother. She had very bad arthritis in her hands, so she wasn't very great at playing Super Mario Bros., but she still tried it. And I remember playing through most of Bubble Bobble with her on the NES. Later on, when shoulder buttons became a common thing, she actually had a much easier time and rather enjoyed some PS1 pinball games, for example. The Wii made things even more accessible, but unfortunately she never got to experience that. My other grandmother still plays games to this day. Actually, she's kind of hooked on them. When the weather is bad, she can spend hours on Pogo.com, and she used to play a fierce game of Dr. Mario and Columns as well. With the gaming industry having expanded so much as a form of entertainment, there is something out there for and aimed at everyone. Saying you're too old for games sounds just as silly to me as saying you're too old for books, movies or music. Longboys Post 1975 put up a video a while back with the following question. Does a sub have the right to challenge you on your content if it's not the reason they subbed? To that I say, yes, they totally do. You gave them that right by offering them ways to communicate with you through comments, PMs or whatever other means you've provided or linked to. I'm a strong proponent for free speech and thus think anyone can state whatever is on their mind, even if that is total nonsense, idiotic or even potentially hurtful. Is it respectful of them? No, not at all. But people have the right to be a jerk and make an ass out of themselves. What you do with their critique is totally up to you, as well as how you let it affect you. That is you, not them. Personally, I also believe that in the end, my channel is for me to fill in how I want it. If someone doesn't like what I put up, well, too bad. Now I do appreciate people giving me their opinion to better steer my content towards as much of a win-win scenario for everyone involved. Well formulated, negative feedback can be an amazing tool to help you improve. If however they're just telling me that I suck and they're going to unsub if I don't change my evil ways, they can go and find content they enjoy elsewhere. They're still free to say that though, they're the ones wasting their time, not me. Finally, a fun question Guess Had Steve threw out there. Do you watch your own videos? And yes, I do actually. This was something I had to learn though, as at first I did not like to see nor hear myself in a video at all. But now I check every video thoroughly to see if everything is in order before I hit the render button, and sometimes when it's done as well. I want to make videos that I can actually enjoy watching myself and that flow nicely. I've also managed to catch a few errors this way. Many more slip through though, but as I do it more and more I do get better at spotting errors, so it's really improving my videos over time, I think. I also tend to watch my older videos back when there is a comment on there, and for the reply I want to freshen up on the context. This also helps me to see how much I've improved and makes me rather thankful for that. So honestly, it's something that I recommend everyone does when creating content, especially when you're just starting out. Well, that's all the questions for this time, and my throat is feeling it. I hope you enjoyed the answers, and if you have any questions for next time, please leave them down below. For now, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching once again, and until next time, take care.